On Dwight Luther to come and offer us a word of prayer, and then we'll have Larry Harvey come and lead us in flag salute.
If you'll stand with me. Lord, Heavenly Father, as we come before you today, Lord, we ask you to bless this meeting, this forum we're about to conduct, Lord. Again, bless our communities that we serve, Lord. Lord, as we have military that's overseas, Lord, conducting this Iranian war, Lord. We ask you to bless our men and women overseas, Lord, our military. Keep them safe. Bring them home safely, Lord. Again, Lord, we ask you to bless this nation and this state that we live in, Lord. We ask you in all these things. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me to salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. I want to take a minute to tell you a little bit about myself. I've got 2 pages here, but none of it's about me, so I got to make this up as I go. What do you want to do? Move that? Okay. My name is Lowell Hobbs. For those of you who don't know me, I was born right out here west of Haskell, actually in 1936. That's going to tell you a little bit about my age. I was born before we had electricity to the home in the country. I was born before we had water to the home in the country, before we had telephones to the home in the country, but we still got by. We made it work. We had a cistern. If you read my article in the Oklahoma Living magazine, you'll see about experience with a cistern. Electricity, we had coal oil lamps and lanterns. We finally bought a flashlight. My dad would let me carry that flashlight when we were going somewhere, but I couldn't turn it on. He said, you run the battery down and we won't have one. So what good was the flashlight, except it was a thrill for a young kid to get to carry that flashlight because not everybody had that good a light. I was about 5 years old before we got electricity, and we were some of the first that got electricity in our area, and I thought we'd hit the gold mine. I thought that was the neatest thing. We had one bulb in each room with a little string you pulled to turn it on, and I lived with my grandma at the time, and my grandma would not let the kids turn that light on for fear you'd pull that string out of that little socket up there, and then you wouldn't have a light at all. So we couldn't turn the light on either, but we didn't have anything to plug in, but we had one plug in. I told you all this to tell you my history goes back a long way in the electric power business. My second son told me one day, he said, Dad, I would have never dreamed that you'd grow up to be chairman of the board of an electric power company like you have, not knowing anything what you don't know. And I said, boy, he summed it up right there. I don't know anything about electric, but I know how to get to people that does know about electric. That's our job as a board. We're not trained to do the electric work or to do the poles. We're trained to hire the people that know how to do that, and we, I think, do a great job at that. The staff at East Central Electric is second to none. The board is second to none. Our board has got some experience and years of training and taking the classes that are offered to us to learn how to govern the co-op, and I'm proud to say that 3 of our guys have reached the gold standard. Well, that's kind of like having your PhD in education, is what I'm trying to say. We've all passed the board certificate credential service, and I've been on the board for 20 years now. It'll be 21 in June. It takes some time to learn how to govern anything. And the NRECA offers these schools where we can go and train and learn about what's coming down the pike in the future, what's already been here, how we can use that, how we can change it and make it better. That's what we're trying to do. At every board meeting, we talk about the little old lady that lives at the end of the line. That's kind of a cliche to me. We think about everybody that's on the line. Every one of our members is as important as the other one is. There's nobody more important than every one of our board members are East Central Electric members. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce the board. got Larry Harvey. You heard him get up and give the flag salute. Larry is the vice president of the board. He also is our representative at the Oklahoma Association of Electric Cooperatives, which is a statewide organization. We've got Max Shoemake, longtime member on the board. His dad was a longtime member before he was. Max is a former dairyman, and now he's enjoying the life of luxury, just having nothing to do but make Phyllis happy. Larry was a former VOAG teacher at Beggs, and I might say, without bragging on him, he was, next to my dad, he was probably the best VOAG teacher in the state of Oklahoma. I truly believe that. My dad was the exception because he was my VOAG teacher and my dad. I was fortunate enough to, when my dad told us something at school, I'd go home and I didn't have to hear from my dad that old teacher don't know what he's saying. They always agreed on what they said. My dad, my ag teacher, the instructions came the same way. So that was a benefit for me because I was kind of a rebellious kid when I was little. You probably can't believe that, but I was not always the perfect student. But if I hadn't had my mother and my dad for teachers, I probably wouldn't have made any A in school. But had my mother as an English teacher, I made A's in English, made A's in agriculture. If my dad had been superintendent, I could have probably been straight A's, but he wasn't. So, so I just got the other grades that I earned. Seriously though, you had Dwight Luther up here a minute ago. Dwight, where'd you get to? Dwight's right here behind me. He's our secretary of the board of directors, and longtime board of East Central Electric. We got Jim Hall here. Wait a minute. Let me go back to Dwight. Dwight serves as our representative at KMO, where we buy 90% of our power from. Jim Hall is a cattleman, stocker cattle, insurance agent, board of directors. He's one of the good guys. He has an ability to hear it and retain it and pass it on. That's a good quality. He's also our representative on Western Farmers Board of Directors. So we have representatives on our two suppliers of electricity and does a good job at that. He's also got the gold, him and Dwight both got the gold award for being trained the best at the highest level. I forget to mention that Dwight was a former game ranger. So some of you that didn't know how to hunt by the law might have met him somewhere down the line. But he's retired now, so you don't have to worry about that. Mike Vernon is not with us this evening, but Mike is deployed to Desert Storm 3 times, a former military man, very conscientious, very direct, and very precise presenter. He can talk and say more in less time than most people can. I talk a lot, but I don't say as much. Next, I want to introduce Dwayne Elam. It's not my job to do it, but he's our CEO and been here with us for a little over a year now. We're pleased to have him, and you'll hear more from him in a minute. I think that's all I need to say. Thank you all again for coming.
Jay, you're sitting back here talking so much before everybody else got here that you thought she's already introduced me.
You all got that? That's his introduction. I'm sorry about that. Jay is our newest member. That's why I don't remember him. Your name is Jay Emerson. Jay's a former school teacher. Hello. Jay lives down in the Chakotah area, so he takes care of our members down there. That we're going to be having one of these down there before long. So if you get a chance to introduce me, skip me, and that'll pay me back for not introducing you.
I won't talk 30 seconds as long as you do.
Well, I'll talk for you then. I got a little more to say then. Now I'm going to turn it over to our moderator named Joshua Bostwick.
All right, everybody. My name is Joshua Bostwick. I have the pleasure to moderate for y'all today, and I'm going to introduce the rest of our members and say a few words about them if you don't mind. Vice President of Finance and Accounting, Teresa Sparks, has been employed at the East Central Electrical Cooperative for 19 years, with 30 years of total experience in cooperative accounting, and has been a member of the cooperative for 12 years. Vice President of Operations and Engineering, Jerome Roberts, has been employed at East Central Electric Cooperative for 22 years, working as a lineman and engineer before moving into a management position. Jerome grew up on co-op lines and moved away during his service with the U.S. Air Force. He has been a member of the cooperative at his own home for 24 years. Vice President of Member Services, Tamara Hawkins. She's been employed at East Central Electric Cooperative for 32 years in multiple member services roles, and she has been a member herself for 19 years. Vice President of Member and Public Relations, Catherine Russell, has been employed at East Central Electric Cooperative for 12 years in multiple member relations roles and 8 years of prior experience in hospitality and administrative services. Vice President of Broadband Operations, Jeremy Hendrickson, has been employed at East Central Electric Cooperative for 8 years and has over 30 years of experience working for manufacturing and warehouse companies. Members have submitted several questions in advance, and the cooperative has prepared a presentation to answer these questions, which will last about an hour. And then there will be time for the audience for audience questions at the end.
Okay, if everybody can hear me now, I got the mic up. So I'm going to kind of jump over here since we're laid out kind of how we are. I am going to pause for just a minute and introduce one other VP, which is Gary Creedmoor, which is Vice President of Corporate Services and HR. So getting into a little bit of our slide presentation tonight. Yeah, Gary, there you go. So getting into a little bit of our slide presentation tonight, you heard Lowell talk about a couple of our representatives that sat on our generation and transmission providers, KMO, with Dwight Luther, which he sits on the board for KMO. Up there, Western Farmers with, just went blank, Jim Hall. Sorry, Jim, apologize for that. And then we also have Associated Electric Co-op out of Missouri, which actually is the one that generates and provides power down to KMO, and KMO actually just distributes it through the transmission lines down to our distribution level, and we go from there. But I want to get into a little bit of where we are, where we've been, and a little bit of the future about where we're going. And this pertains to everybody in the electric utility industry. Even though I'm talking about us as a co-op world, what I'm about to talk about affects the municipal world. It affects the IOUs, individuals and organizations such as PSO and OG&E. Everybody is dealing with the same problem that is going on right now in the utility industry. If you'll think back a little bit with the 30-year decisions based on 4-year political terms, well, what do we mean by that? If you'll think back in President Biden, what was President Biden about? All green energy, windmills, solar, and all that. Retirement of coal plants, carbon footprint, all that nature. So through his whole 4-year administration, there was a bunch of retired coal plants that was taking place. We lost that generation capacity going through there. So when we lost a 500 megawatt coal plant, if you will, 500 megawatts of electricity went away. That had to be replaced. So they was trying to replace as much as they could with solar and windmills. You can't replace all that generation by those two entities, because why? When the wind don't blow, electric don't turn. When the sun's not out, electric's not provided. So if you've got a farm and you got a solar charger with electric fence, you kind of understand how that works. It's got to have a battery backup for that electricity to continue to go down that hot wire when it's dark. So fast forwarding into President Trump, he's took an entirely 180-degree turn, and he's trying to keep coal plants open as long as he can, even trying to even reestablish some of that footprint. But now, at that point, we have lost so much generation because of the retirements of the coal plant. There's new generation having to be built just to meet the existing plant demand of what that capacity was, on top of the new capacity coming down the pipeline into the future. So a lot of that is taking place right now with natural gas, with simple cycles, combined cycles, and all that nature, to be able to try to, one, replace the coal generation that was lost and retired, and two, try to get ahead and start producing more generation and capacity for the future. Reserve capacities. Everybody remember Winter Storm Uri in 2021? Big storm that come through here. I used to never think growing up that we would ever experience any kind of a quote unquote brownout or blackout. That was something that only happened in California, and I'd hear about it and see about it and all that, until it happened where I was working running the municipal utility, and we had to take curtailments. We got to take 3 of them during that process. One day and 2 back to back the following day behind that. I never would have thought in my life here in the heartland of United States and in Oklahoma, I would get to see that. But that's what happened. And why did that happen? If you'll remember, we had about a week and a half of single-digit temperature. Coal is thermal generation, so it's static, steady electricity going through there. Wind is not thermal. Solar is not thermal. So all that capacity we lost, they had to start curtailing load to be able to keep the electric generation up and not overload it. What happened past that, 2021, all these GNTs in a regional transmission organization, which is what they're part of, they started putting in reserve capacity requirements. Because a lot of these GNTs would say, we can meet 2,000 megawatts of capacity in production. Well, it come time to pull on that 2,000 megawatts of capacity, they could only produce about 1,500 or 1,600, and they were short 400 megawatts. When they were short 400 megawatts, didn't have the electricity to flow down the transmission lines into the distribution lines. That's why we, in the municipal world, and some of them on eastern Oklahoma, we took curtailments. Electricity wasn't there to meet the demand. So after that, they put in capacities. It started out at 10, 12, 15. Just recently went to 36 in the winter. If you'll notice, 36 in the winter and 16 in the summer. The winter now is becoming a high peaking time of the year. It used to be the summer when everybody's air conditioners was on. It's not no more. It's in the winter. Because when it gets cold and it stays the sustainable code, and we'll show you a slide a little bit later of how the temperature affects you, me, and my home, and all of us in here in the winter, and our heaters trying to stay up with the ambient temperature compared to what it does in the summertime. Guys, I'm going to be front and center. There are rate increases coming. We had rate increases this last April. We have another rate increase coming this April from our GNT organizations. They are having to build capacity. Back in 2019, when I sat on the board for GNT, we was going down the road of first trying to switch over into the natural gas, and it was a combined cycle. We could build that combined cycle natural gas unit, and it didn't even meet the 500 megawatt like our coal plant did that we had to retire out with Unit 1. It only produced about 485, 490 at the most. But when we built that one in 2019 and started that progress of that, it was a little over 580 million, pushing right at $600 million to build that 485, 490 megawatts of power. Fast forward to present day, to build a similar size unit, and I'm just going to talk simple cycle, because the combined cycle, you're going to add about another 50, 80 million on top of that. But just to build a simple cycle today, you're approaching 800, 850 million to produce that amount. So the costs are going up, and they're having to replace that same cost with what we had already had and enjoyed for years and years that is no longer in existence because of the environmental regulations at that point in time. So this is nothing new that we're going to have to experience. OG&E is going to have to experience this. PSO is going to have to experience this. And the municipals in the municipal world that provides electricity is going to have to experience this. What we're doing internally is we're doing everything we can to moderate and control the costs that we have control over inside. We can't control what our generation and transmission providers have to build and produce just to be able to continue to keep the lights on, build new houses, new commercial places, and just the population that's growing and the demand for electricity in today's age. So with that, if you'll notice over in the pie chart, I can show you just a little bit, and this is from Associated member load. We still have coal plants at Associated. We're gonna run those plants until we absolutely cannot run them no more, which is pushing basically to 2030, hopefully maybe 2035 today with some of the loosening of the environmental restrictions. But you'll see in 2025, % of our portfolio in electric utility from generation was 53% from coal. Gas only produced 24%, and you can see how that's having to start to swing the other way. But notice what wind produced, 16%. Notice what hydro produced, 6%, which is your dams with hydroelectricity. And that's, in my opinion, as close to green energy you can get because it costs nothing to do that, and it's water through Mother Nature, and it's utilizing the water to turn a turbine to create electricity. Unfortunately, we just don't have a whole lot of those in the United States on the scale that we need them from that standpoint. At the bottom, you'll notice the cost adjustment, February 2022 to February 2026. This is your PCA, power cost adjustment. This is what is provided to us from Associated Electric, from KMO Power, from Western Farmers Electric Co-op. Notice down here, that scale is gradually continuing to rise. It's the cost of having to produce the generation and replacement generation of what we've lost and they've lost in the coal resources going forward. You see the peaks and valleys. One thing I've promised everybody up here that we're working on and going to do, even had a conversation about the CCA, we'll get in some slides earlier. We've already modified that out where it's going to be a lot more smoother and you're not going to see the peaks and valleys that we all got to experience this past year, especially in November. But if you'll notice, she's continuing to rise. That's the power cost from generation going forward. We're going to dump into a little bit of distribution lines. Jerome's going to come up here. I'm going to come back a little bit. Remember this slide, because I'm going to tie back to this slide and that PCA down there at the bottom, because there's a deal called demand, and our cost from our GNTs is based on demand. So I'm going to touch on that when we get into that slide. Jerome?
All right, thank you. Like we've been talking about, we've got those two power providers there, Western Farmers and KMO. This area right here is served by KMO. Myself and our engineer at the co-op, we stay in pretty good communication with KMO every month. We have a planning meeting and talk about how much load is coming on and when, if there's new subdivisions going in around Bigsby or anywhere, if there's new large commercial loads coming in, they need to know about it so that we have the capacity when that load gets here, we have the capacity to serve them. You can see how our cooperative has grown in the past few years. So we have to stay in constant communications to make sure we have the power when it's needed. Distribution lines. This slide here kind of shows how much the prices has risen over the past few years. Look at these transformers down here, almost doubled what they were back in 2020. Some of the trucks, 50% increase, poles 75% increase. I was saying the trucks, the big trucks, there's just very few places that we can get those from. And like the half-ton trucks that we can buy, we actually get 15 quotes from 15 different dealers to make sure that we're getting what we want and at a good value. Same with the wire and the material for the poles and the material that we put on the poles and build with. We send out quotes for that as well. There's only there's a few places that we can send out quotes to, but we have to get the right specification, and we're always looking for a good value as far as the material goes. Right away, this is one thing that directly affects reliability. You can see right there in 2025, we had a 99.92% reliability rate. Several years ago, the board made a decision to pump more money, I guess, invest in our right-of-way, and it makes a big difference. I know some of y'all, it's been about a month ago, you remember all the storms that happen out east. The trees can have a devastating effects on power lines, especially in ice. When you have ice build up on it, and trees will fall on lines. And even today, high winds can cause those trees to blow into the line and cause blinks, outages, and stuff like that. So right-of-way is extremely important. You can see last year we spent $4.1 million in right-of-way, and we are on a 5 to 6 year cycle trimming right-of-way. Once we trim it, we follow up with spraying about 2 years afterwards to kind of control some of the small growth. Spraying our right-of-way is probably one of the cheapest things that we can do to help maintain our right-of-ways. It's a lot easier and a lot cheaper to spray something when it's 5 foot tall than to cut it and trim it when it's 30 foot tall. It's just a lot cheaper. With smart grid fiber, I'll talk a little bit about this before I turn it over to Jeremy. We've installed the smart grid or the fiber line throughout our entire system. What we use that for in the operations side is we have breakers, what we call reclosers, hanging on the line, and we have other equipment tied to that to where we can see what's going on from the office. We can see how much voltage is on the line. We can see how much amperage is on the line. We can also operate that equipment from the office at the co-op, which helps us. We can save somebody going out and rolling the truck out to every time we need something done, every time we need something operated. We can do it from the office instead of rolling the truck out. So now we are what we are standing up right now, what we've been working toward is a self-healing system. And there's a little short video here that it's a simple video that explains a lot better than what I can, what a self-healing system is. It's pretty much these devices will communicate with each other and isolate a piece of line where an outage occurs and isolate it and maybe backfeed that line instead of having everybody off. You might have just a short number, few people off, and that's basically what it is. Like I said, that video can explain a lot better than I can. So I'll let Jeremy talk about the broadband for a little bit.
In 2018, the board realized that nobody was going to bring reliable internet to the rural members in our territory. 77% of our members were underserved or unserved with any kind of internet service. And so the board had an opportunity to get some grant money, and they pursued that and were awarded $22 million in that initial grant. And then they voted to establish Echolink in September of 2018. And Jerome was talking about the fiber, and it really has two benefits for our members. It has the reliability benefit for helping us be more efficient in operating our grid, but it also has the benefit of providing our members with reliable internet service. Nobody else was coming. They realized, the board had the vision and the foresight to realize that if we didn't do it, nobody else would, and we were going to repeat history and come full circle. What we did 85 years ago in building the electric line, we're doing the same thing on internet. You know what happened in 2020 with COVID? We sped up the project and we were able to get schools and teachers and telemedicine and these kinds of people online. And it's really just been a huge benefit for our membership. And Kaylee's going to roll the footage.
Network that can greatly reduce power outages for our customers. CPS Energy can make this possible through Smart Grid Initiative. Smart sensors placed along our power lines and in our substations can detect trouble and communicate real-time information to automatically diagnose problems on the line and reroute the power supply. So how will a self-healing system work? Let's take a look. Here is a community made up of residential, business, and what we call critical need customers. You'll notice the homes, school, shopping center, and hospital all receive their power from power source A. You can also see power source B, which serves the southeast section of town. Now, notice switch 1, switch 2, and switch 3. These intelligent switches can automatically detect trouble on the lines and then start, stop, or reroute the power flow in order to isolate the problem. Let's see what happens when a vehicle accident occurs. An automobile is traveling east. The car hits a slick spot on the road and strikes a utility pole, damaging the pole and the power line. Today, without smart grid technology, power source A shuts down and the entire community, including homes, the shopping center, school, and hospital, would lose power. The power would remain out until the customer notified CPS Energy and crews were sent to make repairs. However, with smart sensors and control technologies, switch 1, switch 2, and switch 3 immediately detect the problem. As the car hits the pole, switch 1 senses an abnormal power flow from the damaged power line. Switch 1 then communicates with switches 2 and 3, and switch 1 and 2 open up to stop the flow of electricity and isolate the section of line between them. Power source A is now providing electricity to the shopping center. Switch 3, which is normally open from power source A, closes in order to provide electricity from power source B. Power source B is now rerouted to provide power to the remaining community. Power continues to flow to most area homes, the school, and the hospital. Only the customers served between switches 1 and 2 have lost power. While this animation has been slowed down to show you a series of events, this self-healing process would actually occur in just a few seconds. In fact, customers may notice only a brief blinking of the lights as the smart grid automatically isolates the outage and keeps power flowing to the greatest number of customers. The smart grid also automatically notifies CPS Energy's Energy Management Center, which can quickly send a repair crew to the area. The crew makes the repairs, and then the Energy Management Center remotely restores the power flow to its original state. A smart grid that can monitor itself can change the way CPS Energy does business. From improved reliability to faster restoration, we can use smart grid technologies to better serve our customers' needs.
Okay. I think it's interesting. It's not, like I said, I've been here 32 years at the Cooperative. When I first started here, we had meter readers running around physically reading meters. And coming full circle, and I'm going to be talking about the meter, but that technology tells you how hard the Cooperative works to make sure that we have good, reliable service. So it's kind of exciting. As far as the meter, there's some information in your packet that goes a little further into the meter, the type of meter, and how we read it. What I want to talk about today is the tools that we have. Speaking of technology and staying up with with the times that help you kind of keep an eye on how your home is using power. So we have a Smart Hub tool, and within this tool, it shows you your daily readings, and it shows you always the day before. It's not real time, it's always one day behind, but it does give you your daily readings. Within Smart Hub, you can set up usage alerts, so if you want to know if your usage goes above a certain threshold every day, it'll send you a text. So it'll alert you that, okay, maybe something in my home is using power, and I want to know about it. And within this, it'll show you your daily usage, but it'll also give you charts. You can look at the day in itself every hour. You can look at the week. You can look at the previous month's billing. So within this, you can see like right here, here's the daily usage across the top. And then at the bottom, there's a chart. And in this case, this is a chart of one day. So it's the hourly usage throughout the day. And within this, if you're not a chart person and you want to see the actual data, there's a little dot right here, a little exclamation point. If you click that, it'll flip the screen and give you the actual data. It'll let you see a summary. It'll tell you the high, low, and average temperature and usage. But you can also go into detail and actually see every hour and what your usage is. So this is a wonderful tool. It is just a tool. Those hourly interval readings that we display here, we do not use to bill you. It's just for your information to help you determine how your home is using power, when, based on temperature, all of that kind of stuff. And then we have a picture of our meter there too. Other tools that we have a new system within the Smart Hub app that uses algorithms to determine what in your home is using. So everything you have in your house has an algorithm or a signature, and these algorithms look for that signature. So within this tool here, it will tell you heat, how much your home used in the last billing period for heating, how much your home used for the last billing period in, there's everything, entertainment, heating, laundry, lighting, everything has a signature, and it's estimating what in your home was using the most power. So it's a wonderful tool to see. You can see in this chart, blue would be air conditioning, red is going to be your heat. So it's a wonderful tool to kind of get a feel for how your home is using power. There's even one called Always On. And we don't think about that. There are times in my home, always on is the highest thing. What is always on in my house? Well, I don't know about y'all, but 20 years ago, I had way less plugged in than I have now. You walk in my kitchen, I have 3 clocks I don't use to tell time. It's on my microwave, it's on my stove, and it's on my coffee maker. It's always on. So we don't think about things like that, but this will point it out. So it's kind of a nice feature. It also does billing analysis, and it does a projected bill. So there's some wonderful information within that'll help you analyze your usage. Other tools that we have available to the member, we bill in 4 different cycles, so we have 4 different due dates. So if there's a due date that works better for you based on when you get paid, we'll change you to that cycle. So that's a wonderful tool that we have available. We also have average monthly billing. If you qualify for it, instead of getting, the higher bill, lower bill, higher bill, lower bill, we just level it out. We'll divide most recent 12 months up and give you a nice level average, and that's what you'll pay every month. And then we also have prepaid billing. We have a lot of members that love prepaid billing. What we do basically is we bill you every day for what you used yesterday, and it allows you to kind of know quickly what yesterday's usage was, how much it cost you. Our average prepaid member has reduced their power usage by 5% because they're just paying attention to it. It just lets them know what they're using every day in a dollar amount. So part of these member tools, I wanted to take some of our homes and kind of show you guys a day in a life. This is the last 2 weeks. This one right here is an average member low usage. I happen to know who this is, so I'm cheating. But this person, you can kind of see how when the temperatures are lower, usage goes up. When the temperatures are higher, usage goes down. Well, Monday of this week, which is the 16th, and if you'll look at, that's this right here. The average temperature was 33 degrees. It got down into the 20s, and it never broke 42 for the day. That was Monday. I'm going to look at this Monday and see what this home did today, because it's, 92 outside. Unbelievable. You have a moderate usage here. You see the same pattern. And then I've got a couple others on the next slide. Now you see another moderate usage, same pattern, and then you see one that's a little higher usage, same pattern. This is what the Smart Hub tool will put in there for you. And then if you go to this same thing online, it'll actually chart the high-low just like this does. So these are things that help you. It also helps us visualize what a week like this week does to we don't think about it. We forgot Monday was 33 degrees. So we get our bill and we're like, what's going on? Monday was 33, today it's 92. Oklahoma for you. But this is a wonderful tool to help us see that. And this kind of goes right along with one of the number one questions we get is, why is my bill high? I've done nothing different in my home. I've left my thermostat at 70, I haven't touched it, so why is the outside temperature affecting how my home uses power? Well, it's degree differential. So you can see here in the winter home, when you set your thermostat at 70 and it's 20 degrees outside, you're asking your home to stay 50 degrees warmer than it is outside. So that's that heat load that Dwayne talked about. Well, you spin around to literally today, you ask your home to see 70 degrees, it's 90, you're asking your home to stay 20 degrees cooler than it is outside. So that degree differential does play in. We say, well, I've got my home's well insulated. How many of us panic during a power outage when we worry about what's in our fridge or our freezer? Well, those are literally foam insulated chests. But power outage does affect it over time. You got to keep it closed, keep it tight. But if you have a long power outage in the summertime and that deep freezer is setting in your garage, it's eventually going to work its way warmer. Our home is no different. In fact, our home's quite a bit different. We have doors, windows, we're going in and out, and we're opening it up constantly. So it's just a good example of how weather highly affects our usage. And we've got a couple QR codes down there to take you to some references about it. The other things that we look for, if you see a spike in usage that doesn't really make sense, we look for things like emergency heat strips. Almost every heat and air unit has emergency heat strips. They sometimes get stuck on. We look for those. Older refrigerators, freezers, well pumps. People forget they had their well pump heater on, and they left it on even though it'd gotten warmer outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this over to Catherine, and she's going to kind of go through what we do to help you locate these and other things to help you save on your power.
All right, so I'm going to go over just to add what Tamara is talking about. There's a lot of things going on in our homes, and we have a lot of different programs and services that help you find out how your home is using power, and also what we can do to minimize that. And here you'll see an example of the lower kilowatt hours you use, how that helps on what you'll see on your bill whenever you're being charged for usage. So a lot of the different services that we offer are energy audits, which our energy audits are no cost to you. And we have an energy auditor that'll come out and they'll look at your home, they'll do a blower door test. And what that does is blow air through your home to see how the ceiling is around windows, doors, all that. But they also check your HVAC, your insulation, to see what may be going on in the home that could be causing either leakage or could be making your your HVAC and stuff like that run longer, harder to raise up your kilowatt hours. So something about our homes we don't ever think about is our homes are just like our cars. So whenever you're driving your vehicle, you see a check engine light. Our homes have check engine lights that we don't see. a lot of times whenever we notice, hey, it's time to check, there's something going on, a lot of times we're not right now, it's not the best time, or I can make by. But the longer we allow that to keep going, especially in our homes, the more that starts to build. And then it starts affecting our usage, and that's what we see on our power bills, that kilowatt hours that keep slowly going up and higher. That's what we see. It's due to a lot of different elements that are going on in the home. Also, with these energy efficiency programs that we offer, if you decide that you want to put more insulation in or put ceiling around your windows and doors, we do offer rebates through our power suppliers that will help offset some of the costs, so that way it'll help you whenever you do make those adjustments and stuff. And something Tamara even talked about was things plugged in on our homes. A lot of times we think they're not using power, but they are. They're still consuming a little bit of power that's cycling throughout the day, and we call those energy vampires because they're constantly pulling just the slight amount of power, but it's that slight amount can add up throughout the years. So things like that, TVs, cell phones, if you put a surge protector or a power strip, and anytime you're away from it, either unplug it, or if you have a power strip, just turn it off, and that'll turn it off completely. But as long as it's plugged into the outlet, it's going to continue to use just that minimum power throughout the day, which can, like I said, it's minimum, but it can collectively come up and be a cause to your kilowatt hours. So before we go into this, a big piece is, please, if you see your kilowatt hours or your usage on your bill go up, please reach out to us. We'd like to help you look at your home, see what's going on. We'd like to help see what we can do to help you lower that. Also, like I mentioned, we do have a lot of different programs we'd like for you to take advantage of. So that way we can help you understand what's going on, and then as well as help lower your kilowatt hours. Like Dwayne was talking about earlier about demand. Demand plays a big factor in the power cost and the cost overall for energy. And something that we don't realize, whenever we think demand, we think like commercial, industrial, large loads that are pulling a lot of power. But a lot of times we don't realize even our homes, our residential homes, plays a factor in demand. So I'm going to toss it back over to Dwayne, and he's going to talk more about what demand is and how you can play a part.
I got this, so thank you. So I alluded to a little bit earlier in the first slide with the GNT, generation and transmission of the demand. Our demand costs are set on the 12 months prior. So the previous year, and there's another slide that's going to come right in behind this. It's going to show you 24, 25, and then the charting of thus far of 26, and how that demand and what we're paying for affects. As you'll notice right here, if I was to go home today, and my wife decided, and sorry Kathleen, I'm going to throw you on the stage in that conversation. She goes through there and flips every light switch on, turns on the washer, the dryer, utilizes smart TV, kids throw something in the microwave, hit everything at one time between 5 and 6 o'clock. That usage and that demand that's needed to run all those appliances and all that electrical outlets in my house is all spiking at one time. Everything is going up there. So they've got to be able to meet that capabilities to provide that kind of electricity. So when you turn that light on, or when you set that microwave on and going to warm up something to eat, that energy is there to do that. Take into effect an example over to the right though. If you level out the loads, and this is one of my conversations I have a lot even with staff is help me help you. Help us help you, but help us too, because at the end this will come back to you full fold. If you'll just kind of spread that out and keep everything as moderate as you can, don't hit the washer and dryer at the same time, doing dinner at the same time and everything else. If you'll kind of spread it out and kind of gauge it, you'll keep that demand of what energy usage is needed in your house way lower, which reflects to your kilowatt usage, but more importantly, it affects to your demand. And the next slide I'm going to show, because the PCAs you see is climbing. The demand from that standpoint, if you'll come in here and look, the blue line is 2024, okay? So in last year, 2025, our demand cost that we was having to pay Western Farmers and KMO Associated was based off of that blue line. That blue line was set throughout the year at each given month by that demand of what amount of usage and energy was needed by any home, commercial institute, or any other entity that needed electricity to be able to function. If you'll go into 2025, see how the difference in that charts? 2025 is the demand we're paying on right now. We're paying for last year's demand in that aspect. So if you'll notice, the red, it's lower. We don't have as much demand that's starting to come through there. So we're starting to level some of this out, and it's a lot of it contributes to all of us being able to do what we do. But see what we're doing already in 2026. If you can see the green line or the line there, we started off pretty tight right there, about the same as we did last year in 2025 in January. But if you'll notice in February, we was a lot milder compared to 25 when we had more snow and stuff on the ground, but we're charting lower. What we want to do is continue to get chart and make sure we level that down. So the more that we all play our part, the more we can mitigate our overall bills at East Central, at your house, my house, and everybody else, which will help affect that demand. As Catherine alluded to earlier, you know, we offer incentives and we offer things. We'll come out to your house. We'll help give you an idea of what's going on. We're doing that for members now. Myself, Catherine, and Lila was at a member's house last night after work, setting some of this up, going through it and showing them some of the usage, and they are seeing some stuff. So we're here trying to help everyone, and we want everybody to know what's taking place. You know, when I took this job, I told the board, there's three important things to me. And those three important things not only apply to the board, they apply to the employees, and most importantly, they apply to the members. I'm a third generation member of East Central Electric, so I'm very familiar with East Central Electric. Just nobody knew I had the background and the knowledge that I had in the energy world until I decided to apply for the CEO position. But that was transparency, education, and training. Guys, I don't want to sit up here and stand up here tonight or anybody else or any other member and tell you our bills are not going to get higher. Our bills are going to get higher. It's just the nature of what we're all having to deal with. I would rather be up front with everybody and tell them what we think is coming and what the expectations we're hearing from our GNTs that they're telling us, because we got to produce capacity, we got to continue to do that. But what we can do is we can help mitigate and try to keep our costs as low as possible, both from what we're doing internally as a co-op and what our members do, trying to understand some of this demand level and being a little more proactive in the end, and it will all help us in our energy costs. But I'm not going to sit up here and lie to anybody. I will never do that, because it's the world we live in. If you've turned on the TV at any given time, like I have, I'm sure you've seen Channel 8, Channel 6, news talking to PSO, OG&E having rate cases, their energy's going up, their rates are going up. Do a simple search. If you're on social media, I challenge you to do this. Do a simple search on Facebook and go in there and type in high electric bills. You will be floored by what you see taking place across the entire United States. From West Coast to East Coast, Illinois to Florida, to North Carolina to California, to even here in Oklahoma in the heartland. So we're trying to moderate, we're trying to mitigate that aspect, but a good part of this forum that we're doing, and we're going to continue to do this even after we get through the other two that we have scheduled. It's a goal I've got to do at least once a quarter throughout the territory. We're going to broadcast it out. Come sit down with me, come sit down with the executive staff, and let's talk about your co-op. Let's talk about the challenges that are going on. Let's help get an opportunity to open communication and education at the same time going through there, because this is unfortunately something that we can't control except what we have the ability internally to control. If we want to continue to have electricity and the demand is going on, unfortunate part right now, if you've looked at the news in the last 2 weeks, and I'm pretty sure everybody in here is aware of what's going on across seas, what's gas prices done in the last week? What's diesel prices done in the last week? I know as a cattle ranch and trying to get ready to bale hay and fertilize pastures, fertilizer's going to go through the roof on me. Diesel's going through the roof on me. That's more cost that's going to cost to deal with it. But those external effects, guess what? They have a big impact on energy capacity too, because it affects natural gas, it affects the oil, and all the production that goes down through there to create energy and the demand. So with that, I'm going to turn it to Teresa Sparks, Vice President of Accounting, and she's going to come in here and talk about some of the other deals, specifically the CCA we all experienced and what we're doing going forward, and breaking down to a little bit about the financial and accounting side.
Good afternoon. As you've seen, your CCA rose in November, and some of the causes of that, if you go to the next slide, energy was down 13% in residential. We did not sell as much energy as we normally do, and so therefore this is through from January to November of 2025, so energy prices, energy usage was down 13%. That caused some of the spike that you saw in November with the CCA, the Consumer Cost Adjustment. With energy being down and everything, our revenue was not what it was, but also our bills, just because energy's down does not mean our bills don't go on, and they stay. Virtually 52% of our expenses is our power cost. 24% of it is 24 cents of the dollar is our interest and our depreciation. 13 cents goes to improve and maintain the system. 8 cents on the dollar pays for the employees' salaries, their benefits, gasoline and the facilities and everything else like that. And then 3% for 3 cents for member services. Our costs stay the same, but our revenue went down, and therefore we had to, the CCA, we had to raise it up to meet those expenses. As you see down here, and like I said, with revenue down, members' residential expense went down, but if you know every category, if you notice, every category dropped on our revenue and on our kilowatt hour sales. And what are we going to do to mitigate that in the future? Well, we've got a cost of service study that we're activating and sending into a third-party vendor to help us mitigate our cost and see where we need to be to level out cost and make sure everybody is paying their fair share of the cost. We are also levelizing out, working on, Dwayne has asked us to try to levelize the consumer cost adjustment. We're also looking at seeing how we could levelize the power cost adjustment with over a year time instead of maybe looking at just 1 month with our power cost. We look at the year and see how we can levelize that. Power costs are going up, as Dwayne said. April, we're getting a power cost increase from our KMO supplier. Western Farmers stays pretty consistent. They give us a year rate, but in April, KMO raises their rates. So we're looking at, we just finished our budget. We worked really hard on our budget to bring it cost, to see where we could mitigate our cost and not affect reliability, not affect our members any at all, and not affect safety. Safety is number one to our co-op. We want all of our employees to go home to their families, So we're not going to shortchange any of that. I'm going to turn it back over to Dwayne and let him finish up what I said.
I'll close it out this evening, but I am going to touch a little bit. If you go back a slide, 2 slides actually, Kaylee, right there. In what reference what Teresa talked about with the CCA and the spike, if you'll notice, one thing that we was talking about up here in the beginning, and I don't know if you can see that very well, but I'm going to point it out. I think you have handouts with you, but we was down 13% in residential sales. Mother Nature didn't do her part. It was warmer. I mean, I can remember I was feeding cattle in shorts and short sleeves on Christmas Eve. It was warm. But that, that's no excuse. That's Mother Nature. I wish I had the ability to control Mother Nature's temperature and what she was going to do, because it'd make my life a whole lot easier on the ranch and doing what I'm doing. But to keep the co-op sound and be able to continue to provide reliable electricity to all our members, so when you flip the switch, it's cold, that heat is there, we had to make provisions to make sure that that took place. We are not for-profit entity. We do not make any profit. We only generate enough revenue to cover our expenses. And as you can see, our expenses was outpacing our revenue, and our revenue was down. When the CCA implemented it into, if you'll notice one more, keep on that previous slide. Well, we ended up, we went from a minus 13% down to a 1%. We was still negative, but we was able to cover our expenses in the year end and keep everything sound and fundamentally financially sound for East Central Electric. Was it painful for us? Yes. Was it painful for me as a new CEO? Absolutely. It was not a fun ride to have to step in 12 months and deal with something of that nature. But that's part of the job. That's part of what I have signed up for, and that's what I'm going to continue to do, and that's the reason I made the statement I made to all you earlier. I'm not going to stand up here and lie, but if I can prepare you, you guys can understand what the energy market is doing in the future. We all can try to do better and hopefully come through this in a lot better. But at the end, overall, we was 18% total down. We ended the year at just 5% down. We was still down, but we had just enough revenue. We was able to cover our expenses and be able to take care of that. Like Teresa said, one thing that we are not going to sacrifice on, that's reliability. Reliability and safety are the top 2 priorities and always will be the top 2 priorities under my administration. I have 2 sons that are linemen. I expect them to come home to our household every day. And they've been out on storms and everything else. I expect the gentlemen that work for East Central to go home to their family too. I will not shortchange, I will not skip. That is a no-go conversation for me from that standpoint. But if you'll skip to the very last slide, I'm going to kind of close it out, and then we'll open this up for questions. We'd be happy to take questions. That's what we're here for tonight. But what can we influence? And what I mean by we is all of us, all of our members and everything else. State and federal energy regulations. If you remember, I started out the very slide in the beginning talking about the federal administration making 30-year decisions based on 4-year administrative terms. Contact your U.S. senators, U.S. legislatures. Let them know how it's affecting us in Oklahoma. Let them know what the energy is doing, what the forecasting is showing. It also has effect on the GNT decision-making aspect. We're all in this together, and we're going to come through it. But the goal is stability. We can't do no short-time fixes. We got to have stability, and that's what I'm trying to create internally is stability. But I can't control externally stability. That's where all of you as members contacting our legislature, our representatives, our senators can help us put more influence on that conversation. What we can control what we're planning and what we're doing, and that's what we're doing internally at East Central. Transparency. It's exactly the reason we're doing this with these forums. Exactly the reason I'm going to continue to do that. Statement I made earlier, education, training, all that is up front. And most importantly, transparency, like I talked about, and reliability. I don't think anybody in here wants us to shortchange or keep bills low, and then we start going into rolling blackouts, or we have longer outages because our right-of-way is not cleared to a sufficient standpoint that we could. So what might be a 30-minute outage would turn into a 3-hour outage. What might turn into a blink turns into an hour. I don't want that in my lifetime. We've gotten accustomed to the modern societies of technology and electricity. I want to continue at that to the best I can. So that's what we can do. That's what we can influence. And what you guys can do to help us, help you, is the same thing. So with that, I'm going to close out. We'll all hang around here. We're here to answer questions. Please, if you got questions, that's what we want to hear, because we're here to serve you. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to open the floor for general questions. We ask that we keep these short and concise, and if you have anything more in-depth or complex, the board will be present after general questions end to answer those for you. So if anybody has a question, could I get you to raise a hand, and I will come around, present you a microphone.
I will say this, if you don't want to ask a question in public content, you can ask us off the side after the meeting too. So.
Okay, it doesn't.
You might also mention that our staff is ready to answer your questions on the phone. If you've got something, don't hesitate to call in the office. Tell them what your concern is and let them answer your questions or come out and see if they can find a problem. It's not a closed conference. It's open, staff is open, we're open. Please, use your hand.
Yes, sir. So at any point, if you guys need anything, the facilities that are operated by East Central are top notch. Please do not hesitate to call, and somebody who's an expert will answer your questions or try to help you in any way that we can at all.
I just want to say thank you. I just learned a lot. I really did. So,
Thank you for that comment.
kind of makes me feel weird though, in terms of you shown me how to go home and save money. But by saving money, you guys don't have the income. So, thank you, but haven't you just shot yourself in the foot?
It's kind of the one thing that we're probably the only industry that'll tell you how to use less of the one thing that runs through our cash register. But the difference in what we do here at the Cooperative and a for-profit utility is exactly that. But as we go through our rate studies, as Dwayne pointed out, when we go through these rate studies, some of the things we're going to be looking at is stabilizing our service availability charge. And so we're going to continue to redesign rates to help you use less but still cover our expenses. But yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. Yeah.
And to explain a little bit on that, or a little farther, because Tamara's exactly right, and I wanted Tamara to say that because she says that all the time, because she's absolutely right. We're in a co-op world, we're one of the few in the utility business that will actually try to help you save more that actually is detrimental to the ability to be able to provide expenses and pay expenses. We alluded to the cost of service that we've got taking place this year. We're gonna go in there, and there's several different rate classes. Residential rate classes, like the deal you've seen up there with the slide I showed with the circles. We're gonna peel those rate classes apart. There's some adjustment I believe that we can make in those rate classes to be able to steady that energy cost and revenue out, and not be so dependent on Mother Nature and whether it's hot or whether it's cold, to help stabilize some of these aspects of it going forward. So that's what the cost of service is about, and as Tamara alluded to get that steady, fixed, stabilized cost, so we don't get into these big swings. We don't get into issues like this. So we're gonna redesign our bill where you can actually see a pie chart and you can see the usage of various things, what's going to our G&T and all of that. I've got some big plans. We just gotta get some time under us and get it moving from that standpoint. But you're absolutely right. That comment is absolutely correct. And it's almost, contradicts itself, but that's the reality of the co-op world and being a not-for-profit. Thank you for your question.
I'd like to say something as a board member. I've been going to be on 22 years. We are a conservative board. Back in year 2022, we had COVID going on, inflation was increasing, rates were everything was going up, like everybody's mentioned here, how everything's going up. We as a board back in 2022, we had a rate study and said we need to raise our cost of service. Well, we didn't do it. We didn't put it in place because we kept thinking we need to be mindful of the members. I got a little old lady down at the end of the road down there by me, close to me. I was thinking of her, that, I know her, she's totally electric. She likes to keep her house really warm during the wintertime. But summertime, you go in there, it's really hot because you don't have to keep it cold. But she is real conservative and mindful about her bills. And so I was thinking of her and other people too. I got family members on the lines too. So I'm thinking about them all. And so we didn't increase the rate then in 2022, and we kept the CCA, we kept it negative. And then in 2023, we kept it zero. Like I said, in 2023, we had this extra margins at 2023 that we could give back to the members. And what we did it in the rates, and giving it back to you guys in a credit is what I'm saying. So we kept the CCA negative for the longest time. And then all of a sudden we had to increase the CCA, and that's what made this big jump increase in your rates is one thing you saw back in November, because we did try to keep it minimized as low as we possibly could. And us as a board, that's what we do, is we're thinking of you, and I'm thinking of me too. I'm a member just like you guys are, and so I'm thinking about my increase and my cost of service. I got this old little well down at the end of my property that costs me more now than it ever has, but I need that well, I need that water, so I'm willing to pay it. I hate to tell you that. That's just how I feel. So anyway, that's just my take. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys for coming tonight. We appreciate it.